Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. It's October 24th, 2025. We're very glad you're with us this morning. Please note this event will be recorded and uploaded to the Career USA YouTube channel to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2007, I took over facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. This group's been around since the late 1990s, meeting right here. I took it over when the prior leader landed a job. In 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon. If you see me in person, I usually have copies with me. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team, also known as a PIC crew, and you'll hear more about them in just a few minutes. Our agenda this morning will start out with success stories, job leads if we have any recruiters online, let everybody do their 30-second introductions, and then we'll hear from the interview success workshop, the practice interview team, and the career tip of the week, and our main event around the top of the hour. So we like to start off with success stories. Do we have any landings to announce? Nobody brought donuts this morning, so I don't think anybody in here landed. Any landings? No? Going once, going twice? All right, we'll skip that part. For everybody who's online right now, if you will, please open up your chat window and give us your name, the position you're looking for, give us your email, LinkedIn address, phone, what city you're watching from. Give us 2 or 3 target companies that we may be able to help you out with this week. And then if you have companies that you have connections in, please let us know about those, because maybe you can help somebody who's here. We'll put 30 seconds on the clock to get started. All right, if you're typing away, please continue to type. Don't let us stop you. What we'll do now is everybody who's here in the room, if you will, come up, grab the mic. We'll let you give your 30-second introductions, and then we'll get everybody who's online a chance to do their 30-second introductions. So come on down.
Hello, everybody.
Oops, you got to turn the mic.
I got to turn it on. There. Hello, everyone. My name is Todd Haney. I'm a customer success and implementation specialist. I solve your clients' problems and the problems with your clients. I need contacts at Simpson Strong Tie, Motorola Solutions, and Collinson. I have contacts. The best contacts I can loan you are with the Association for Talent Development. I'm on the board of the Dallas chapter. My name is Todd Haney.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is David Glasscock. I am a senior sales executive, business development representative, and I am looking for contacts with Rimkus Engineering Consulting and Certain Path. I have contacts in various contractors in the construction industry. My name is David Glasscock.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Florence Hogan, and I am looking for a position in market research, insights, market intelligence, competitive intelligence. And I am interested in targeting this week, targeting companies at Liberty Mutual, Deloitte, Gartner, USAA, and those are my target companies. And I'm just new to the job market, so this is my first meeting. Again, my name is Florence Hogan.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Christine White. I'm looking for a fixed asset accountant role. I don't have any target companies. My name is Christine White.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Paul Hussar. That's H-U-S-A-R. I'm a Director VP of Customer Service and/or Technical Support. I'm PAR Technology and Mustang Special Utility Group are looking for me. If you know someone, please help them find me. I can help with contacts at LG. I'm Paul Hussar.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Steve Stanton. I make banks better. I'm looking for a chief product officer or a chief of staff kind of role at a bank. Big bank, little bank, I don't care. As long as the bank needs something that cuts across functions, I'm the guy. Thank you, Steve Stanton.
Good morning. My name is Chris Holmes. I am looking for a senior manager or director position leading a IT portfolio operations or application delivery team. I'm looking for contacts at Toyota or Toyota Connected this week. I have contacts at Southwest Airlines, and my name is Chris Holmes.
Florence, just a second. Florence, Kelsey Wise is going to reach out to you. She's got contacts at both the companies. Kelsey Wise.
Noel Span. I'm looking for a job in the accounting area. Today is my last day, so I'm really fresh at this. Again, my name is Noel Span.
Thank you.
My name's Andy Odom. I'm a pastor. I'm looking for jobs in the nonprofit sector, and particularly director roles or development fundraising. And no target companies really right now, but I do have contacts within the church world if you're interested in that kind of work. My name's Andy Odom.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning, Brett Cooper, adolescent medicine physician and healthcare leader, looking for roles in hospital or health system administration, insurance medical directors, or W-2 consulting. I have contacts at UT Southwestern and Children's, and my name is Brett Cooper.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kathleen McGregor. I'm looking for a paralegal position, and today I need contacts at Toyota North America, specifically in the legal department. And I have contacts in the banking industry. Again, my name is Kathleen McGregor.
Okay. Anybody else? Some of you all are very shy and don't want to come up here. Okay, we'll go to everybody who's online here. If you will, raise your hand so I don't call on you more than once. So Mark, please go ahead.
Yes, my name is Mark Jermansky. I'm looking for a senior technical writing position, remote only. I have target companies as Motorola Solutions. I have no target companies. Again, my name is Mark Jermansky.
Thank you, Miguel.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Miguel Castillo. I'm looking for a director or a vice president of finance with a deep expertise in financial planning and analysis. I need contacts this week at Stryker, and I have contacts at American and essentially in all the airlines. My name is Miguel Castillo.
Thank you, Matthew.
Good morning. I'm Matthew Bianchin. I'm seeking a role in business development. I do have some contacts at Aramark and at Pepsi. I am Matthew Bianchin.
Thank you, Steve Rohan.
Good morning. My name is Steve Rowan. I'm a retired .NET developer. I have contacts at Fiserv and the VA. My name is Steve Rowan.
Thank you, Amanda.
Good morning. My name is Amanda Boyle, and I'm seeking a regulatory compliance role, a material compliance role. I need contacts at Bosch. I have contacts at several different companies. If you would, connect with me on LinkedIn. And if there's any way that I can help you, please reach out to me. My name is Amanda Boyle.
Thank you, Nikki.
Good morning. I'm Nikki Duncan. I'm looking
sorry.
for...
Oh, I'm sorry, Nikki Wilson. We've got two Nikkis. Yeah, Nikki Duncan, go ahead.
One of these days, Nikki and I are just going to assume to just like draw straws.
Yeah, this seems like a deja vu.
Right? I'm Nikki Duncan. I am looking for remote, preferably remote, chief of staff or director of operations type roles. I don't have a target company this week, but I do have a diverse network of contacts. So if anyone needs any help making connections with anybody in my list, please let me know. It's open so you can view it. Happy to help. Nikki Duncan.
Thank you. Dee Robinson.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. Dee Robinson. I am a volunteer that helps job seekers find their next great job. I retired as a VP of HR about a year ago, and this is how I spend my time. I sat where you are today 10 years ago, and coming to Jeff and the Friday group was a big part of my networking and job search. So thank you, Jeff, for all you do, and glad everyone is here.
Thank you. Chandra.
Hi, my name is Chandra Thomas. I'm looking for an administrative analyst position. And most of my work nowadays will be hybrid. I don't have a target company right now. So my name is Chandra Thomas.
Thank you very much. William.
All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is William McLaughlin. I'm currently seeking a business analyst role, and target companies include Dave and Buster's and GameStop. Again, my name is William McLaughlin. Thank you.
You, James Pence.
Hello, everyone. James Pence. I'm currently looking for a client-facing role, whether it be account manager or client relationship manager type of role. As far as target companies go, somewhere in the lines of Fiserv, Workday, anyone of that nature. And I'm happy to help any way I can as well. Again, my name is James Pence. Thank you.
Thank you. Drew.
Hi, everybody. I'm Drew Puckett. I am seeking a marketing operations or data analytics role. And right now, I still have Halo MD and Tango as target companies. I have contacts at Intel from having worked there over 20 years and some at some other tech companies that they have moved to. My name is Drew Puckett.
Thank you. Carol.
Good morning. I'm Carol Palmer. I'm seeking a role within change management or project management. I've worked within nonprofit and the pharmaceutical industry. My name is Carol Palmer. Happy to connect.
Thank you. Steve Sulkin.
Morning, I'm Steven Sulkin. I'm a Director of Operational Excellence, and I drive company-wide process improvement transformations in multi-site health systems. I'm looking for contacts at Scottish Rite for Children, and I can help with contacts at Baylor Scott and White. I'm Steven Sulkin.
Thank you. Tracy Harris.
Good morning. I'm Tracy Harris. I'm a senior search consultant at Thomas Edwards Group. We're a recruiting firm. You've probably seen us in some of these other networking groups as well, but we focus in accounting, finance, and HR recruiting in the DFW area. Yeah, so happy to be here. Tracy Harris.
Thank you. Nikki Wilson.
Happy Friday, everyone. Nikki Wilson, and I fix the tough talent stuff. I am a global HR director. That's what I'm looking for, as well as senior HR director level roles. I need contacts at HEB and GitHub this week, and I have contacts at General Motors and TRG, or formerly the Richards Group. Again, Nikki Wilson.
Thank you. Alkeisha.
Good morning, Alkeisha Rodriguez. Technical business analyst role is what I'm looking for. I have contacts at Verizon and Communities Foundation of Texas. Alkeisha Rodriguez.
Thank you. Kelsey.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelsey Wise. I am looking for roles in events and communications. I have an innate ability to pivot quickly, and I'll tackle any task you throw my way with passion and positivity. My name is Kelsey Wise.
Thank you. Scott. Scott in New Jersey. Here we go.
Yes. Sorry about that. Uh, Good morning, everybody. Scott Pedro, Certified Planning Inventory Management. Looking for a supply chain job in central New Jersey remotely, specializing in inventory control or production planning. If it has a part number, I can manage it. If it doesn't, I'll create one. Scott Pedro.
Thank you. Michael.
Good morning. I am Michael Wilk. I'm looking for a senior or lead quality engineer or quality manager position. My target companies include Boeing, Collins, and Raytheon. My name is Michael Wilk.
Thank you. Rosina.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. My name is Rosina Gallman, and I am your career tip of the week host. I'm looking for a position as a senior talent acquisition partner, senior recruiter, or senior corporate recruiter. I need contacts at TIAA Frisco and T-Mobile. And I have contacts at a variety of different places. So as we connect, you can take a look at my connections. Again, Rosina Gallman, Senior Talent Acquisition Partner, Senior Recruiter, or Senior Corporate Recruiter position. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Anybody else online I missed?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Aubert. I'm a customer-facing technical sales engineer. I'm looking for sales engineer, technical account manager type roles that are customer-facing. I need contacts at Interstate Wire, Echo Lab, which is also called Malco Water, Highland Electronics. I have contacts at Cadence Design Systems and Synopsys. My name's Jeff Aubert.
All right. Anybody else online? Okay. Well, job leads. I know we have some job leads, so
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about those. This week, we haven't seen too many perm roles come in. It's been interesting. We've really seen an uptick in contract roles. It might be that end of year support when it comes to accounting and finance, but we do have some IT roles that came in, a lower level data analyst. We do have an entry level financial analyst on the Fort Worth side. As far as contract roles, we've got internal audit in IT, pricing analysts. And we also have a remote controller position requiring transportation in the automotive industry and an active CPA, someone who's willing to commute to Will's Point. So interesting roles right now, but really seeing an uptick in contract positions.
Tracy, thank you very much. If anybody wants to reach out, you do reach out to Tracy Harris, or information will be in the chat window. All right. Whoops. Walt. The interview success workshop. We had no poem last week, so I don't know if we want two this week or not.
Good morning, everyone. 2 poems. There's a 50% increase in price for that. So we'll see what we can do with the poems. It's great to see all of you here this morning. Great to see you all online. My name's Walt Glass, and I help gain confidence and skills with your interviewing skills via the Interview Success Workshop. Now, the workshop is free. And while I do a free workshop, I also am a panelist on the PIT crew, which you're going to hear about as soon as I finish. But the idea of selling ourselves in an interview is kind of foreign to us. We are more likely to try to respond to questions, and that's where it ends. Well, actually, we're in a selling situation, so how do we sell ourselves? And that's what the Interview Success Workshop is all about. It's selling who we are, what we do, and how we can help. Those are the 3 elements. You'll see a QR code on the screen that will start an email to me through my Yahoo email address, which is reserved for the workshop. If you go to my LinkedIn page, the About section is all about the workshop itself, some of the details about how it goes. It's very informal. It's not a mock interview at all. It's a learning interview. So what we want to do is say, all right, how do we sell ourselves? And it can start with a greeting. I'll give you an example. Yes, good morning. Yes, thank you for inviting me to be here today. Good to see you. That's very typical. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing really bad with that. But what if we said, good morning, I'm excited to be here. I'm looking forward to having a discussion, to talk about this role under this company, I think I make a significant difference. All right. And there it is with energy, enthusiasm, passion, genuine, authentic. You really want to work here. You really want to talk with these people. And when you have that mindset going in, it's going to be completely different. We're going to set a filter as you are a potential candidate, and we want to keep that up through the whole interview. And so that's what the workshop is about. So you have to be registered to attend. My Yahoo address is on my LinkedIn banner, so you can send me that email. I'm currently putting people on the wait list. It's about 4 weeks out right now, but get on the wait list. I am having some cancellations. You can always, maybe you can move up. Be glad to have you participate. So I call it learning without squirming. Well, a no stress workshop is not a tease. Our fingers will not freeze. Our cheeks we will not squeeze. In fact, learning how to set ourselves will put us at ease. I am Walt Glass.
Very good. Thank you. All right, the practice interview team.
Hello, I'm Paul Hussar, and I'm so excited to talk to you about the practice interview team today. The practice interview team is just that. We provide you the opportunity to practice your interviewing skills in front of a panelist of 3 people. These people are volunteers. They have conducted several hours worth of research before speaking with you. They've examined the job description you are interviewing for and your resume, which you will submit when scheduling the interview. And they'll conduct a mock interview and give you direct feedback immediately after. We meet here every Wednesday from 1 to 3. And well, not every Wednesday, but the first, second, third, and fifth Wednesdays of the month. On the fourth Wednesday of the month, we do offer an online session for people outside of the geographic area. We have a motto: practice early, practice often. If you're interested in conducting an interview, please reach out to Ron Layton and or the Pit Crew group on LinkedIn, and he'll put you in line to schedule your interview. We always need panelists. If you have been a hiring manager and if you've had to terminate someone, you qualify to be a panelist. Please contact Ron Layton if you're interested in assisting in that area. I highly recommend attending this, even as an observer. You're going to learn something significant. I know as a panelist, I learn something every session. It's a valuable opportunity to really sharpen your skills and make sure that you're presenting the best you can in your interview. Thank you. I'm Paul Hussar.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, time to hear the career tip of the week. Good morning, Rosina.
Good morning, Jeff, and good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. All right, this week's career tip of the week is still the same title, Top 25 Best Job Search Tips for Jobs in the U.S., but now it's part 3. And part 3 contains 10 advanced suggestions. So with that said, the most effective job search tips for the U.S. market emphasize networking, tailoring your application materials, and treating the search process as a full-time commitment. So in part 1 that I talked about a couple of weeks ago, the core strategies are the top 25 job search tips were divided into categories such as strategic planning and organization, networking and connections, application materials and online presence, research and engagement, and interview and follow-up. And then last week in part 2, the top 25 job search tips focused on advanced application and material tactics, mindset and motivation, leveraging modern technology and tools, and skill development and professionalism. So this week, for part 3, the prompt is still the same question. What are the top 25 best job search tips for the jobs in the United States? And the secondary part of that question is where we get this week's prompt or this week's additional suggestions. And that is, do you have any additional tips or suggestions? Now the prompt is I used Google Gemini for all of these parts. And so now in part 3, asking for additional tips and suggestions, I was provided with 10. So since we've covered the primary strategies and tactical execution, the remaining high value tips often relate to visibility, leveraging subtle psychological edges, and maintaining control over the process. So here are 10 additional advanced suggestions for further maximizing your job search success in the US market. So first, you want to volunteer to present your work. If you were invited back in the later stage interviews, offer to deliver a short presentation on a relevant project or a solution to a challenge the company faces. This showcases your communication, strategic thinking, and initiative. Second, you want to activate your hidden network. Beyond immediate former colleagues, think about professors, alumni associations, past clients, vendors, and even friends from unrelated fields. The best referrals often come from unexpected sources. Third, you want to optimize your voicemail. Ensure your phone's voicemail message is professional and clearly states your name. A casual or full mailbox can create a poor first impression when a hiring manager calls. Fourth, you want to send an application follow-up before the interview. For a job that you're very passionate about, consider sending a brief professional follow-up email 1 week after applying if you haven't heard back. And then reiterate your interest and attach a recent relevant work sample or article. Fifth, you want to look for unposted jobs. Search company career sites for roles that are coming soon or evergreen or have been posted for a long time. These often indicate continuous hiring needs or difficulty finding the right candidate, which will offer a lower competition pool. Sixth, you want to focus on specific locations. Use geographic filters even if you're searching for remote work. Listing an interest in a specific metro area, such as Dallas-Fort Worth, can sometimes make you appear more stable or accessible than a candidate simply using remote. 7, you want to know the economic landscape. Be aware of the current job market trends in your industry. Knowing if your field is in a hiring surge or a layoff cycle will help you set realistic expectations and negotiate more effectively. 8, you want to be prepared for the why do you want to leave question. If you're currently employed, have a positive, forward-looking reason prepared. Focus on seeking growth, new challenges, or a better cultural fit rather than complaining about your current employer. 9th, you want to ask for informational interview referrals. When an informational interview ends, always ask, do you know 1 or 2 other people in the company or industry you think I should connect with? This helps you continuously build your network. And then 10th, review your online application for errors. After submitting a request online form, review the confirmation email or portal page for any data entry mistakes. Many companies use these forms instead of their resume for their initial ATS data pool. So these suggestions move beyond the basics, helping you to navigate the competitive landscape with greater finesse and preparation. I hope you find value and gain additional tidbits of insight to enhance your job search from these 10 advanced suggestions from this week's Career Tip of the Week, which is top 25 best job search tips for jobs in the United States, part 3, 10 advanced suggestions. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody.
Rosina, thank you very, very much. All right, today for lunch, we're going to go to Mama's Pizza. I'll be eating the hot cinnamon rolls. Y'all can have the pizza and the buffet. I won't bother you for that, but they've got a salad bar, pasta, big pizza buffet. So come join us today at 11:45, 2130 West Parker Road. It's on Parker, a half block west from Custer. And we'll take a hand count here at the end to see how many people are going to join us. All right, if you want to receive today's materials, you can get a copy of the speaker's presentation, a link to the YouTube video on the Career USA YouTube channel. You'll get a copy of the career tip of the week that Rosina just shared. You'll get a copy of the Zoom chat with everybody's contact information. If you want to make sure you do that for everybody who's in person, make sure you've checked your name off the roster. If anybody who's new, please go through and fill out the little white slip of paper and make sure it's legible so I can read it. And you will be invited tomorrow when I go through and process all this information. And for everybody who's online, please be sure to put your email address in the chat window so I can make sure we get you added to the contact list. All right, it's time for our main event. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, just raise your hand, or you can just enter your question in chat for those of you who are on Zoom today. Our speaker today is Ashley Thomas, and I'm going to let Nikki introduce her.
Nikki's trying to get her 3 screens set up. Actually, it's just 2, but it feels like 3. Okay. I need to share my screen. Share, replace. All right, now we got that done. Ashley Thomas is a job search coach and certified resume strategist with Right Step Resumes. She's a former corporate recruiter of 20 years and has hired for companies across banking, education, healthcare, nonprofit, and manufacturing industries. She's won multiple resume writing awards, and her job search advice has been featured in major publications, including the HuffPost, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. Ashley's best known for empowering overthinkers to navigate the job search without spiraling, settling, or selling themselves short. She's awesome. Her resume tips are super. I think you guys are going to love it. Ashley, are you ready?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Let's go. Let's get this thing started.
Get this thing started. There you go.
All right. So let me move this out of the way so I can see everything. Okay, so I'm just going to make some initial comments about what I see in most resumes. And I won't be repeating a lot of the things that I'm seeing. So I'm not calling out every single thing that I see that I want to change with these resumes, but I want you to get a better idea of the things that come up as a first impression when I'm reviewing resumes. So generally speaking, most people miss the branding component. Walt mentioned in his interview portion that we want to know really who you are. And I say who you are, what you do, and how you add value. And I think Walt said who you are and what you do and how you impact things. So basically the same things. We've never met each other before, but we have very, very similar ways of looking at how you present yourself to employers as a problem solver. And so most of people, when I see their resumes, they miss the mark on that first. So they jump right into their work history or right into their education. And then there's the bullets. There's tons of bullets everywhere. And there's no differentiation between what it is that you were hired to do and then the things that you're giving examples of what you did well from that. And then there's also the missing element of when I'm reading the resume, I need to know what your job target is right away. So I shouldn't have to figure that out. It's your job as the writer of your resume to make sure that anybody reviewing your resume, the reader, whether it's a human or whether it's the applicant tracking system or ATS, should be able to understand your purpose for applying for that role and be able to quickly skim through your resume to pull out information that really validates your match for that role. So when I'm reviewing these, I'm pointing out those things and whether you make the mark or, or miss the mark there. And so for this one, I'm seeing, again, tons of bullets. So I'm thinking there's a lot of, let's see, commercial finance. So I would assume that this person is applying for a position in the finance lane, right? Because I'm looking at those job titles first. Um, I am seeing that there are some accomplishments, but they're mixed into what the position actually does. So what I recommend is when you're writing out and explaining what you did in your jobs, there should be 1 or 2 lines that are not bulleted, that under each position entry that actually explain what you were hired to do. So if you look at the first bullet, it was saying that they partnered with trade development teams, across those 4 areas, right? So that would be part of the description of what this person was actually hired to do. And the bullets are always accomplishments. So the bullets should explain success. They shouldn't talk about tasks. So your resume should not be task focused, especially when it comes to the bullets. It should explain, again, a quick story about, what you were hired to do, what challenges were there, gives a broad overview of the budget that you may have covered, the areas that you support, and then your bullets are specifically explaining the things that you did well. And you should try to quantify those achievements to show that success. Quantifying doesn't always mean that you have to use numbers, because sometimes numbers don't make sense. But in those instances where you can talk about the money that was made, the money that was saved, time that was saved. So that is a way to quantify things. Quantifying means that you are giving a specific example of how you made something better. Right. So, I do get that question a lot from people like, well, I don't have numbers, or, I don't know if, if it was 40% or 30%. That's usually when people make up numbers, they usually grab that 30 or that 40%. But in actuality, quantifying means that you're showing success, you're proving success in those areas. So that's the only time that you should use a bullet, because bullets draw attention to things, and you want to draw attention to the things that you did well. So on this resume, like I'm saying, I'm seeing the mixture of some successes and some numbers in there, but they should be separate from what you were actually hired to do. So overall, I would say that this is a pretty decent resume, but I'm still missing the component that shows the brand. It jumps right into the work history. So you don't have an opportunity to sell yourself and actually use the, maybe just 1 or 2, no more than 4 lines at the top of your resume, or bullets, at the top of the resume explaining, kind of what you're doing here. So speak to me. Don't just barge into my house, knock on the door, introduce yourself to me. And that's what your branding statement actually serves the purpose for. It doesn't have to be anything long and drawn out, but it does give you an opportunity to kind of set the tone for what the reader is going to read in the rest of your resume, and also gives the applicant tracking system more information to extract by way of keywords. So like I said, this is a decent resume, but there's a way to beef it up. So for instance, if you in the second position, if you developed reporting metrics and analyzed company performance to enhance inventory management, pricing strategies, and supplier revenue, I would like to see an example of that. So if you enhanced inventory management, how? Was it something that you did specific for that? If there was a pricing strategy changed, how did that impact? Did it save money? Did it make money? Did it save time? How did it improve something? So just going a little bit deeper to show that you have that expertise, especially if you're targeting something at the management level. And here I'm not really sure if you actually supervised people, even though you have a management title. It does not specifically say that you supervised people or how many people you supervised. So that would be something I would have an immediate question about that. If you were a manager, did you manage people, or were you just managing that process? And so that's pretty much what I would say about this position. I see the education is there. I also see that as you went further back, you talked less and less about, what you did in those roles. So that would be perfect. And we can go to the next resume if we don't have questions. Okay, so this one person actually said that they were transitioning, so I love that. Now I have a little bit of a backstory of what this person is doing. So they are transitioning away from the banking and financial into paralegal assistant. So that means when you're transitioning, you're going to scale back on a lot of those financial things that have nothing to do with your new job target. And I know it feels weird because you're like, well, what happens? Do I just delete those old positions? Or, how do I frame it in a different way? So, you would just take a look at that job posting and then talk about the things that you've done within all of your jobs that align with that. And so we typically refer to that as transferable skills. So here we do have a professional summary that talks about the amount of time that they spent, as a legal coordinator, which would be good because that sort of gives me a quick glance. If my position is requiring 3 to 5 years of experience, I see this person immediately. I see they have 6. I would say, so use of the core competencies. This section allows you to get skills there, but I would say I would not waste this space by filling it with soft skills. So like verbal and written communication, that is a soft skill. That's something that you would demonstrate, and you would demonstrate your written communication skills by how you write your resume, by how you communicate via email or text with the recruiter or somebody on the hiring team. You would also demonstrate that in your interview. So I wouldn't waste that space saying that you have verbal and written communication skills, because that should be a given for somebody that has been a legal coordinator or an administrative assistant before, right? I would use this space to fill it with more keywords that are going to show my expertise in those areas. Also, with the key accomplishments, I wouldn't create a separate key accomplishments section unless I was able to identify where, because as a recruiter, I'm reading that and I want to know where you did those things. So now that's creating more questions for me. So you collaborated closely with the legal team and you had 100% compliance, but where? So that bullet needs to be assigned with the job that it goes to, because now I'm using this information to calculate how much experience you have for that period of time. And so when you separate that out and you don't repeat it elsewhere in the resume, I don't know where to give credit to those accomplishments. I need to know where they belong. So be careful by separating those things out if you haven't repeated them again somewhere else in the resume. Again, there's bullets draw attention to things. And so everything can't get the attention, right? So something has to describe, again, the work that you do. And then bullets are always your success stories. And even though you have bullets here that show the success, they should be front loaded. So whatever you achieved should be first. Right. So if you achieved you cut the data entry time by 60%, right? Then I want to know how you did it. So this bullet could actually be reversed. And I'm referring to the second bullet in the first job. So it would then be that you eliminated, that you cut the data entry time by 60% and strengthen team productivity and accuracy by partnering in the rollout of a new intake system. Right? Because you always front load your achievements. The success goes first. So you tell the what you did or what you achieved, and then the how you did it. So just flipping it, because you're assuming that the person reading that resume is going to read all the way to the end, right? So I'm seeing what you did, but I'm not knowing, because I'm skimming this. I'm giving this a first look. So the first look of that resume is only going to take about 7 to 10 seconds, right? And so, because I'm skimming, I'm looking for, for certain things. I'm looking for your education, looking for you to meet the requirement for whatever system, requirement for how many years of experience, right? And so don't assume that the person is going to read all the way to the end, especially when they're skimming and there's hundreds of you. So put the impact first. Put the most relevant things higher up in your resume. So talk about those things first, because you always want to assume that I'm not going to make it to the end. Right? But otherwise, I would say this is a resume that I would say, yes, this person should be applying for this type of role because the experience looks relevant. All right. Do we have any questions in the chat at all?
Not so far that I see.
Okay. All right, good. So just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything.
I'm
Okay.
watching. I have it open and I'm watching it.
Okay. All right, good deal. So let's see. So this person looks like they are a technical writer. That is what they're leading with. So I'm going to assume that that's the type of position they're applying to. They have not worked since May. So I would want to create a little one-liner right up under the where it lists as the work experience. I would want to in this area, I would want to have a one-liner saying what you've been doing since May. So whether that was volunteering, whether or not it was taking a course, taking some additional training, because you can go on LinkedIn Learning, you can go on Allison.com, a lot of those places, and take training that's relevant to your field, just so you can have something to fill that space. It's not as concerning because it's only been, just a couple of months, but when that time starts stacking up, because those months go by fast, once you start leaning up to, 6 months you haven't been working, then that's going to create some questions for whoever's reviewing the resume. What have you been doing since May? Right? That's going to be the question. So anytime you can answer a question that it's going to most likely come up in an interview, if you can address that on your resume before it becomes an issue, you are creating a, sort of that validation and kind of that head nod, like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Instead of, I don't know, they haven't been working since this time, because people get real judgy when they're looking at other people's resumes for opportunities, because your competition may be working. Right? So they have a current role, and they say that you're more attractive when you're currently working. So if you have something where it's creeping up and it's been a little longer than 90 days that you've been out of work, fill the space with something that you've been doing. It doesn't have to be anything long and drawn out, just just a one-liner. Here, there are no bullets. And so that makes it a little hard for your resume to be skimmed, because a lot of this kind of blends in. I don't know where it's hard to tell at first glance where the one position ends and then the other position starts, because everything is there and there's no bullet differentiation. And then the bolding is just there for the position. So I would probably bold these out. And I think it could be probably a font change that could help this out, or shorten the titles on the jobs, because that second job got a very, very long title. And so what you would want to do is translate that title into something. Think about what you would be called if you worked anywhere else, what would your title be? Help the reader understand what your title is, because we're looking at those specific titles and trying to draw the parallel between what you've done and then what you're about to do in the new role. So when those titles get really, really long and they're not really relevant to what you're trying to do, make it short, just summarize it. Okay. And you can put your official title on the application. But just to make it easy to skim, make sure that you're using a title that's easily digestible. And that would be the same for, for several of these roles as well. If you would be just a technical writer anywhere else, say that you're a technical writer. And then I can say, I'm going to bounce back up, because this is how I read resumes. I don't read it just from top to bottom. I'm searching for, for different things all over the resume. I may be looking at the education here. I'm looking at the dates in another place, or whatever, because again, I'm scanning the document looking for certain things per my job description and per conversations I've had with my hiring team. In your branding statement, make sure that you're giving success stories, that you're talking about the things that you do well. You're talking about the impact. You're talking about the problems that you solve, and not just regurgitating how much experience you have. So it may be beneficial to not focus on how many years of experience you have, but focus on what you were able to accomplish and the impact that you made during that time. Because you're hitting on it by delivering high quality content that enhances usability and clarity and satisfaction. But I want to see that throughout the summary statement, and maybe shorten it up a bit. It shouldn't really be longer than, just, maybe 2 to 3 lines, 4 lines max, just to make sure that the reader of the resume is absorbing that information. Core skills, I would bring those to the top of the resume, because again, you're assuming that the person's going to make it to the bottom of the second page of your resume, and that doesn't always happen. Bullets, front load them. Your accomplishments. On the second page, I see transform user guide content by 50% while reducing technical errors. That should be front loading. That you reduce those technical errors 50% by doing what? So make sure that you're flipping those bullets. Other than that, like I said, I'm not going to regurgitate everything that was done, talked about on the other jobs. I do see that now that I go back through and look at the dates, these positions were very short-lived. If these were contract roles, say that they were contract roles. When you put your dates over to the right side of the page, you're drawing attention to those dates. You can camouflage your dates by putting them closer to the position title, right? And you can just put them in parentheses and italicize them. Putting them over to the right side makes me automatically see, ooh, those are short-lived. 3 months, 3 months here, 3 months there. And now my focus becomes how long you were at the jobs versus the impact that you made while at those jobs. So it's not that you want to show the reader what you want them to look at first. So the information can still be there, but don't put it over there to the right side, because now it's standing there on its own and I'm seeing that. That's going to be glaring that those positions were short-lived, and now you're going to be classified as a job hopper and people start judging about that. I don't care about people job hopping. Honestly, I don't personally care, but I've worked for hiring managers that absolutely care. For me, 1 to 3 years working in a position, that's a lifetime, especially these days. Within the maybe last 10 years, people are just not staying in roles long, but you don't know the mindset of the person that's reading your resume. They may be real judgy and picky about how long you've been at these positions. So just a tip. You tell the reader what you want them to look at by what you bold, by what you italicize, and what you draw attention to. Next resume.
Ashley, we have a couple of questions.
Okay.
I've seen people advise to leave out the summary paragraph and only include the bullets. You're saying don't do that. Put the branding statement in the summary at the top, right?
So it's going to depend on what you have to say. You're not going to just make something up just to fill that, to fill that space. You really have to say what is relevant. What do I need these people to know? If you're transitioning, I would definitely say that you need a branding statement. I always use branding statements, regardless of what my clients are doing. But how long I have that branding statement and what I include in it depends on how I've positioned the rest of their information as well. So no way is wrong. If you ask 5 recruiters or 5 resume writers about what they think, you're going to get 15 different responses, right? Because everybody has their preference. You have to do what is right for you and for your information. So if you don't have a lot of experience, you may rely heavily on that branding statement because you're trying to educate the reader of the resume about what it is that you can do and why you're applying. For somebody who has a lot of success stories and they've had a lot of time, in their roles, it may not be as necessary for them to have a lengthy branding statement or branding bullets at the top. Whether or not you use a paragraph or whether you use bullets for the branding or summary statement at the top of your resume, it's just a matter of preference. The content is going to be king no matter what. But when it's within your position, bullets are always accomplishments. That's it. They are not tasks. They are not explanations of your responsibilities. They are accomplishments. So I hope that clarifies it a bit.
Okay, second question. For the out of work one-liner, should that be present regardless of the position applying to? Resume content shows the relevant work experience, and the one-liner is simply to address the lost time, correct?
Yes, it's just addressing the lost time. So typically what I would do in that is say, from May 2025 to present, currently, enrolled in, if you're enrolled in a master's program or if you've been taking training, I would say taking relevant training and then add some keywords relevant to the type of training. So if it's, finance and accounting, if it is technical writing, if it's whatever it is, you're just doing one little explanation about what has happened in that time, because you could use your cover letter for that. But we all know that not everybody reads cover letters. So you want to put it where the hiring teams are going to see it. And so you can put it in a smaller font, you can put it in parentheses, you can highlight it, whatever it is that you want to do with that, but just a quick little statement explaining that gap. And it's just that, that recent gap. I wouldn't worry too much about the other gaps if you've had, consistent work elsewhere, but just explaining what you've been doing, because that question is going to come up. They're going to ask it, right? And you want to, if you know that something is a hiccup or something throughout the process when you're interviewing, you want to address that and get that out of the way so they can focus on what it is that you can actually do for them in the new role.
And you would do the same if it was a break for caregiving for a family member or something like that, right?
Yep, you just explain it, and you don't have to go into detail about what that, specifically was. You can just say that you were caring for a loved one. You don't have to say that they had cancer. You don't have to say that you had a baby. You don't have to say any of that stuff. You just say that, you took a career break to, solidify some personal, personal estates, especially if somebody, passed away and you were having to go in and clean out the house and get the finances in order and work with the life insurance and do all that kind of stuff. You don't have to explain those things out in detail, just a general overview of what it was, just so they can say, oh, okay, cool, and then and move on past. If you are a stay-at-home parent, you can just say stay-at-home parent from this day. You don't have to create some, Thomas Industries or whatever and create this position, because we all know what you're doing. Don't worry about doing that. Just put a one-liner on it. You're a stay-at-home parent for the past 6 years. And, and let's get it over with, because they're not going to ask you about that simply because it's legally they can't, or, really ask you about it. Just skate across it. Just get it over with. All right, next resume. So this looks like a project management resume. So again, you see how this person said they are delivery focused market project management. They are describing themselves, and they're telling me what they were recognized for: managing concurrent initiatives, risk mitigation, driving cross-functional cross collaboration. And like, I see right away, like, okay, cool, because I'm expecting my project managers to work cross-functionally. I'm expecting them to be able to work on multiple things at the same time, and I need my project managers to manage risk. So those are things that are going to be important. So this is very simple. They're telling me that they're in the CPG industry. I would think that if they call that out, that's probably where they're trying to be. So that makes sense to me, and I like that. And then they've listed their key skills that are very strong and relevant to this type of role. So, so I definitely love that. Good start. And you see how this is an example of what I mean when I say put the one-liner on what you were hired to do. So they manage the end-to-end execution of those brand strategies, driving cross-functional collaboration, and proactively mitigating execution risk. So you see how they told me up top what they were good at, and then now they're giving me examples of where they were hired to do that exact thing. Right? So that is driving home. Remember, you've got to see things a couple times before you believe it. Somebody has to thank you about 7 times, right? When you make a donation or something, nonprofits, they thank you about 7 times before you get it. Like, oh, they do actually appreciate me. So say things multiple times, just like, this is a commercial for you. Say it over and over again. You don't have to go overboard with repetition, but back up what you've said. So this is showing proof of what they listed above. They directed a launch of 16 brands. I love that. They're also telling me the amount of goods that were sold. This is a really good resume. There's not a whole lot of fuss with it. They didn't go crazy with the design or anything like that, but I see immediately what this person was supposed to, what they're telling me that they're good at, and they're backing it up with proof. The resume bullets are actually, their accomplishments. They delivered, $170,000 in savings. They also, managed a 45% increase in their volume. So those are those accomplishment bullets, but their paragraph is explaining what they were hired to do. Education is bolded. I can see that right away. They also listed their certifications and where they got them from. I love that. And then they also listed their awards. So this, I would say, is a solid resume, but the resume is only as strong as the position that you're targeting. So make sure that you're updating those key skills and also your accomplishment bullets to be relevant to each position that you're applying to. Now, one thing that may cause a little bit of issue is, and let me move this out of the way. Yeah. So the stacking of positions. So it looks like on page 2, I don't know where, I'm assuming that these may be still at Frito-Lay. But I don't know, because Frito-Lay isn't on the second page. So remember, if I'm scanning, I'm confused at which which company we're talking about. So it may be to your benefit to put a line at the top to say Frito-Lay continued, so that we can know that we're still talking about these positions you held at Frito-Lay. And then lumping the positions together per title, like all these titles stacked. be careful when it goes into the applicant tracking system. Make sure that you're checking that information so that it's parsing correctly, because the ATS is going to pull information directly from your resume, however you lay it out, and it's looking for patterns. So if I've got a position and then dates, here since they're stacked, there's position, then there's dates, and then there's bullets. Positions, dates, then bullets. Positions, dates, then bullets. Now I've got position, dates, position, dates, position, dates. So it's a break in the pattern. So it may interrupt the flow of parsing. So make sure that you're looking at that profile and your information is correct how it's listed on your resume too. So always double check. Don't assume that the system is pulling your information correctly. That would be the only thing. But other than that, I'm not mad at this resume at all.
Ashley, we have a question here in the room.
Okay.
Hi, a couple questions here. So first of all, do bullets versus dashes, are those looked at as the same thing?
Yeah, it's a type of bullet. So yeah, you can use a dash, you can use a star, you can use an arrow.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. That's considered a bullet.
Okay. And then I like, for instance, on this one, it has a description and then the bullets. Is that the proper format?
Yes,
Where she-
because because that is going to separate your tasks and what you were hired to do from what you accomplished. If everything is a bullet, then now I don't know where where your accomplishments are. They're all kind of all woven in there together. And what you're doing is trying to guide the reader's eyes to what it is that you want them to see. You're letting your resume tell your story without you having to explain it. So you putting it in paragraph form under the position listing is you saying, this is what I was hired to do. And then you putting bullets under there is you explaining, and this is what I accomplished from what I accomplished from what I was hired to do.
And
Right.
is there a specific length, like for example, for the description of your role in that first line, is there a specific length that it should be limited to?
No more than 4 lines, because
Okay.
it's, you don't want to take up a whole lot of space. You want to give that real estate to the things that you accomplished. So you don't want to go overboard with that information. But I would say no more than 4 lines.
And then
And
finally,
it could be 5 in some cases, but again, big chunks of text or blocks of text, do create boredom with the reader.
finally, one page versus multiple pages.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah.
is there a rule of thumb on that, or is it is it just case by case or?
Yeah, so it's going to be case by case. So your resume needs to be as long as it has to be in order for you to show your skills as they are relevant to that position, right? To the position you're applying to. So someone with 5 to 10 years of experience is going to struggle to keep their resume at 1 page, because that means you're either cramming the information, you're leaving something important out, and you are not doing a good job of explaining the things that you've done. Now, if you've had the same job for the last 10 years, then you may have just a 1-page resume. You don't have to force it to be 2 pages. 2 pages is the general length that most of the resumes that I've written, over the last 13, 14 years are going to be that. Also, you have to look at, there are certain standards by company. Some companies only want a 1-page resume. And so that's where it's important to read what the requirements are for that particular position. The standard, do they want you to upload a Word document or a PDF? They typically will say that, or they'll give you that option. If they don't give you the option to upload a cover letter, chances are they don't want a cover letter. So that's where your reading those directions would be in mind. But the average length of a resume is going to be 1 to 2 pages, depending on how much experience you have and how much relevant, experience you have to include, right? So there is no rule to say that it has to be 1 page or it has to be 2 pages. Your resume needs to be as long as it has to be. You can't be too long now. 2 pages typically will get it. If it's an executive or you're a project manager and you've done a bunch of projects, you may have a 3-page resume, but it has to make sense. You have to ask, if I take this away, is this somehow, dumbing down the experience that I have? Am I limiting my resume to only the last 10 to 15 years? Because that's all that I need there, the last 10 to 15 years. So if I'm going beyond that and that's making my resume 2 pages and it could actually be 1, take the old stuff off, because that old information is probably obsolete anyway because of technology and policy changes, law, legal changes, everything. So if you're keeping it within that 10-year, mark, you're going to have about a 2-page resume.
Ashley, we have a question online. Okay, we have 2 questions. One is caregiving a problem, not practicing your trade and staying current?
Is it I don't know that I'm understanding the question.
Like if you have a career gap and you put in there that you're caregiving for somebody, what are the chances in your experience that that's going to cause problems because you're not staying current to your trade?
So while you were caregiving, so it's really going to be up to the person that's reading the resume. People are going to have their assumption, like you can't control what the reader of your resume is going to assume about you, right? You can't, control how they perceive your information. All you can do is put it out there as tried and true, right? So if you're caregiving, you're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about what you did as a caregiver unless it is relevant to the work that you want to do. Otherwise, the only reason why you would list that is to explain the gap. That's all you're doing that for. Has nothing to do with the experience that you're bringing to the table. Now, I would say that if you have an opportunity during your caregiving to set aside a month, one or two trainings per month to fill that gap so that you can have something relevant to put there, then do that. That spent 1 to 3 years, as a caregiver, while, at the same time taking these training courses. That shows that you're staying relevant within your field. Whether it's going to association meetings, whether you were, reading articles, whether you are contributing articles, whatever it is, that's relevant to what you're doing, you want to try to fill that gap with things that are relevant. But sometimes, life just be lifing and you don't have time, to do that. And so what you're doing is simply explaining that gap.
Okay. And is there a way you recommend to test how ATS parcels our resumes? I get clues that it's not working great because application systems make errors autofilling the resume, or perhaps the ATSs are purposely trying to torture us.
Yeah, I get it. I definitely get it. But you can use systems like JobScan, but they only give you about 5 free scans a month, right? So if you're doing, 30 applications or whatever, you're going to run out of those free scans in a minute. I always try to get you to get the free 99 first. Get it free first, and then before you start paying for something. Chat GPT, Claude, Perplexity, all of those give you an opportunity to upload the job posting and then add your resume. Excuse me, I would say make sure that you're anonymizing your resume so that it's not getting your personal information, your phone number, your address, your email address, where you work. None of that's important. You can put company A, company B, and then, put some fake dates there. Because all you want the system to do is judge your resume against the job that you're applying to and let it tell you where you're falling short. You can do that for free in ChatGPT.
And
you cannot control how the ATS is going to respond to your information because there are thousands of different ATSs. The employers can set what they want the ATS to look for and how they want it to respond to resumes. I've worked in ATSs that all they did was collected the resume. They didn't scan for anything. I had to physically read those resumes, manually did it. There are a lot of companies that still operate like that, but you don't know how that it's going to perform. So the only thing you can do is control your controllables. Am I qualified? Yes. Does my resume show that I am qualified in the things that this job posting is asking for? That's the only thing that you can control.
Got it. And are there preferred that you know of formatting rules to improve ATS parsing? Sort of like with the key skills section here, they've got pipes. Do you know if pipes versus dashes versus whatever makes a difference?
Simple is better because the system is going there, again, it's looking for repetition. Make sure that your formatting is consistent. You don't want to put one of your positions in bold and all caps, and then the other one is going to be in, italics and, and it's not. You want to be consistent with whatever you're using. Simple fonts. Don't try to get fancy with it. If you want to stay with just an Arial, Calibri, Times New Roman, even though it's a little, it's an outdated font, there's it's still okay. There's no reason why you can't use Times New Roman, but make sure that you're using a very simple font. You're using simple bullets, and you can, do a quick Google search. What are the easily read, fonts, so that you're not using something like Comic Sans or the Disney font, or whatever, trying to be cute. The resume is not the time for you to try to be cute, especially when you don't know what you're doing. Simple is best. Keep it simple. Put only the information there that is necessary to determine whether or not you are a fit for the role. If you stick to simple, you don't have to worry about making mistakes and whether or not the ATS is going to read it or not. You can test the readability of your resume by saving it as a plain text document and opening up that document. If you have fonts that you've used that are kind of funky, they're going to turn them to, all the different, type of things. You're going to get it's going to look like errors. So, you can test it out on your own by saving, like I said, like saving it as a plain text and then reviewing it that way. But there's nothing you're going to be able to do to create one document that's going to fix everything. There's nothing you can do about that because, like I said, all systems are different. They're all set up differently. You have no control over that. You also don't have any control over the reason why you're not getting called for these interviews. A lot of times, even if you're qualified and you have the best resume under the sun, that doesn't guarantee that they're going to call you, especially when there's 1,000 other people, to pick from, especially in these remote roles. So don't always assume that you have done something wrong because you're not getting called. They can only hire one person for the role. If 900 and some other people applied to it, everybody can't get it, right? So control what you can control, and that is, I have placed the information on my resume showing that I meet the qualifications for this job. I have examples of my success that align with this job. That is all you can do.
Okay,
That's
moving
it.
on.
Mhm. All right. So this one starts out with an objective statement. Objective statements are out of date. And objective statements are very job seeker centric, means that that means that it is showing what you want. Okay. An employer does not care what you want. They want to know what you can do for them. They be very employer centric when you are writing your resume. You are telling them what you can do to benefit their bottom line, to make them money, save them time, increase their market share, help them, with their patients, saving lives, whatever it is. They do not care that you want to be a medical director. They don't care. They don't care about that. So as soon as you say objective statement, that immediately tells me that you're telling me what your objective is, what you want. So don't even say it. It looks like you've put the things there to show where where you add the value, but you've listed it as an objective statement. So change that summary statement, or it could be just, position statement, whatever it is, just get rid of objective statement. I do like the personalization there. I personally do not use personal pronouns, the I, me, them, they, all of that in the resume. And that's because the resumes are written in a very, very short term. So when you're writing in full sentences like that, you easily could say, where you said drawing on my skills for, for blah, 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 right? You can say drawing on skills. And you don't even have to say skills, experience, and education, because that's what a resume is. You can just say, started out as physician leader with over 10 years of experience in clinical medicine, whatever. So you're saying what you do, right? And then skilled in quality improvement, population and management, because you're saving that space. So that's how you can shorten this, shorten this from being 6 lines. You probably could bring it down to maybe 4 just by removing all those extra words. Okay. The skills, yep. So I see that where you highlighted that out with the keywords. Let's see, just be careful that if you're pulling these skills up to the top of your resume, that you've listed them elsewhere in your document too, because it has to align. I want to know where you did that. Where did you do the program implementation? Where are you getting that clinical expertise from? You dated it in this one in the clinical expertise, but that's, that's cool. Now I know where to put that. But if you're telling me that you have healthcare operations knowledge and you're giving me an example of that, where is that elsewhere in the document? I am also seeing on the second page of the resume where you're starting some of the bullets with responsible for. Do not start that with responsible for. I always give the example, as a child, I was responsible for cleaning my room. That didn't mean I did it, because I didn't do it all the time. I didn't get the stuff up off the floor. Sometimes I just pushed it up under my bed and got it out of the way. I didn't do it, but I was responsible for it. So did you do it or did you not? And so the resume is only talking about things that you did. Okay. So either you oversaw the largest medical association in the United States or you didn't. I don't care that you were responsible for it, because that doesn't tell me that you did it. That's kind of a like, oh, I kind of sort of did it. I think you got to lead with confidence, okay? And let me know if you're somebody who's leading the largest medical association in the United States. Say that with your chest. You did that. You oversaw the largest. You weren't just responsible for it. You did it. Okay, so y'all be careful with saying that you were responsible for something. And then also separating your accomplishment bullets. Tell me what you did. Be proud of what you did. Say that first. Lead with what you have done first. Okay. That's okay. So if you look at your Texas Pediatric Society, the second bullet, you've got 5 years. So that's a number 5. But then I'm looking at I think it was somewhere where you said a 5-year plan, but you wrote it out. And see, I can't even find it because numbers need to be written as numbers. Okay, I know in regular business writing, you write numbers that are lower than 11, you write them as words. But when somebody's skimming your resume, write the numbers as numbers. So in strategic planning, you said implementation of a 5-year strategic plan. Be consistent, right? So I can see those numbers always. 5-year, write the number 5. Any numbers, write them as numbers. I do that all the time. And that's just because when I'm skimming, I want stuff to stand out. Because if everything else is numbers and then you've wrote 1 as a, or 2 as TWO, it can get lost in the sauce in there. But those are just some technical things I would say about this resume. Overall, not a bad document, but definitely room for improvement.
Is it possible to oversell yourself in a resume, i.e. accidentally knock yourself out of consideration because you're too or overqualified?
Yes, because if you are giving so much information above and beyond what the position is asking for, so say you're applying for an office assistant role, but you're talking a whole lot about managing people, you're talking about writing business plans, you're talking about doing all of these things, I'm going to assume that you're overqualified for this position, because why are you applying for a position that's just here to answer the phone? Okay. And I'm not saying that's all office assistants do, but I'm saying there are some office assistant positions that is all they do is answer the phone and maybe do some, light filing and clerical duties. But you're talking about, you're listing master's degrees and PhDs and, and all this stuff. It gives the impression that this job is a pit stop. I need somebody that's going to be here because this phone is ringing off of the hook and I need some consistency. I need a face that's going to be here every day. And if I'm thinking that you're going to jump on the next thing smoking, that pays you more, that gives you more responsibility, then I'm going to feel that maybe you're not the best fit for this opportunity.
And we should always use past tense, correct?
Yes, now the current position may have a combination of current and past tense, but all of your bullets should be past tense because those are things that you achieved. If you did it already, even if you continue to do it, if you've done it already, it needs to be in past tense if it's a bullet, if it's an accomplishment bullet, but there may be a mixture in that current role, but anything in your past is going to be past tense. So it looks like this one is in HR, transformation, and talent strategies. I like the resume. They use color, they use bolding because they're helping me draw my attention to the things that they accomplished. I like that. I can see the $150,000 in donations, the 30% increase. I can see the internal pay transparency. So I can see that. And that's what I would expect for somebody who is in HR, and talent. The only thing that I would say, again, is bullets galore under these descriptions. So I would want to pull out some of the things that describe the work that's being done separately from the accomplishment bullets. So that would be the only thing I would say just right off about this position. But there's a good use of bolding. There's a good use of of all caps. So it looks like the position titles are in all caps. The company name is in all caps. The position title is is bolded, and that's consistent throughout the resume. And then they've listed their additional experience without dates, because there's that funky little ageism that we want to make sure that we're avoiding. And if I only see that additional experience and there's no dates assigned to it, I'm not worried about how old this person is for real, because they've only gone back 10 years on roughly 10 years on the resume, even though 2012 was a little longer than that ago, but 2017 covers that. So yeah, I think this was laid out really by, resume standards, other than the little, itty bitty nuances. But I would be okay with this person applying for HR consultant, HR business partner, and, talent strategy roles with this resume as is.
We've heard not to use columns via ATS and parsing. Is that correct? Should we avoid them? Okay.
Even outside of the ATS, it is not a newspaper. You need to write your resume across the page. As humans, we read from left to right, all the way across the page. And that's how the ATS extracts your information. So if your resume is written in columns, not only is it confusing to read, for the average person, it is, it's hard for the ATS to know that it's supposed to stop halfway in the middle of the page and then pick back up at the top and come down. It's going to read from left to right across the page. And you have to assume that. There may be some newer models that read it differently, but why take that chance? I think a lot of these pretty formats, especially when you go on Canva and let Canva write your resume for you, it's always going to put it in the column style. But you have to remember, Canva is not a US-based company, so there are different resume standards for companies that are, in completely different hemispheres of the world. So you want to make sure that you're keeping with US standards, and that is not a 2-column resume. All right, so product manager. So this is a very decent layout. There's good white space. Everything is consistent. I love it. We've got find a better way to describe yourself other than accomplished. Because what does that say? That's an overused term. Let's be specific. If you're a product manager, and you say that you have experience driving growth or whatever, give me an impactful way to describe yourself versus seasoned, accomplished, and, and those types of things. Let's see. So the key accomplishments, I like those there. Again, just make sure that you're repeating them elsewhere, because I want to know where you did what. And even though they said decisions at like Walmart and, an Epsilon, I'm going to, so I can see it. Yep, they worked at Epsilon here and they worked at Walmart here. But not everybody does that. So just make sure if you are calling out those accomplishments that I know where to assign those things. So, so good job with that. And let's see, we got the dates there. Everything there is consistent with the layout. And see how there's just a one-liner under each role that says what they were hired to do, what their overall responsibility was. And then the bullets are all accomplishment focused. This is a very good resume. Yeah, we can go to the next one if there are no questions. I like it. I like it.
No questions that I see so far.
All right. Again, here, a good, it looks like a good consistent layout. I would just say be careful with the spacing because it does look a little bit crammed. So give it some room to breathe. I think you can do that by lowering your font. Your font can be anywhere from 10 to 12 point, depending on the font that you use. This looks like either a Times New Roman or maybe Times New Roman's cousin, which is Garamond. I think, if I know my fonts correctly. So with that, you probably could go down to an 11 point, and that will free up some space in between the rows. Just so just give it a little bit more room to breathe. And then your technology and skills, if you put those in a different color, or you don't, because if you underline the position titles, if you just underline the section headers, then you don't have to put the font quite as big. And that'll kind of free up some space in there, but it is, a little bit jammed. Okay, strategic accounting leader with 20 years of experience, you're a dinosaur. That's what that gives. So don't say that you have that much experience, because I can look at your dates on here and see that you've got that much experience, and that USA Today experience, you can minimize that because that's over 10 years ago. That's over, if I know my math correctly, you're getting up into the 15 years ago, and everything with that. So you can minimize that experience by, even because you've had higher level positions than controller before, you can just minimize that. You don't have to delete it altogether, but just minimize it and put it as early career. Now you freed up a bunch of space, so you give everything else room to breathe. So that would be the only thing I have for that. You also don't necessarily have to put the description of the companies that you worked for, unless you're trying to prove that you have experience in a space that they are requiring you to have, right? Because now you're taking up space by talking about the company when the focus should be on you. And I know some people will say, hey, you need to give a description of the company. You don't have to. You don't have to, because if I want the experience, you can explain that you managed accounts payable, accounts receivable, or whatever for the leading investment holding company in the commercial real estate space. Like, you can find a way to incorporate it in there that doesn't take up as much space. It doesn't need its own line, especially when you're limited with the amount of space that you have. So think about it. Is this helping me be more qualified for this role, or am I just putting this on my resume because somebody told me I had to? That's the biggest thing for this document, because I'm not going to keep repeating the same mistake that everybody is making. Bullets are accomplishments, not tasks.
If a job posting requires 15 years of experience, is it better to show that in the summary at the top, or let the dates of your experience show that?
You can say it, either way, but as a recruiter, I'm going to calculate it by the dates anyway, regardless of what you say up top. Because some people will say they got 20 years of experience, but I only see 10 on the resume or whatever. So I'm going to count what it looks like. I'm going to count it myself. All right. So this one, again, I am seeking a position given my passion for helping. So no, just start with your passion, because again, the employer doesn't care what you want. You can shorten that up by not using the full sentences. So it can be, strong track record of leading, teams toward personal and organizational growth. Again, what does that mean? That's kind of filler. And so if you've recently helped a church achieve greater spiritual and financial, so financial is misspelled, financial health while strengthening its presence in the community. I would assume that this person is applying for a position that is in the in the faith-based position. So that seems relevant. It seems to track, but just make sure that you're giving that example just as an example and not using a bunch of fluff and filler, because that feels fluff to me. Just put it plain and simple. If you help them grow their financial health, be specific about that you help them go from $2 to 200,000 in a month. Be specific about what that was. Or if you don't want to give a dollar amount, just say the percentage of increase that you helped them do. I see they've done an operating budget of 3 million, so that's good. And you improve the cash position by over 5 million. Again, I would want to see that first, because it's not as important that they did the 2 capital campaigns as it is that the cash flow was improved over $5 million. You need to say that first, because that's big. That's huge. I want to see that first. And so you see how the accomplishments are kind of woven into the bullets. I can't really tell what is what. So now I'm looking for the accomplishments. I shouldn't have to do that on it. But overall, not a bad document. In a faith-based position, it may be okay to have a 3-page resume. So I'm not really mad about that. But I would see if there's ways to shorten this. The skills section could be shorter if you just list the skills side by side versus in a 2-column bullet, because that takes up space. But, otherwise it seems to be, on par for a faith-based resume with what you're including here. All right, we can go to the next one if we have one. All right, so we've got core competencies. Again, there's no resume title, so I don't know at first glance what type of position you're applying to or what it is that you're actually targeting. So the resume should have a title. So I see you've done some image review processing, you've done clerk work, you've done customer service, you've done credentialing. So it's kind of all over the place what you've done. You can do the administrative route or you can do the customer service, but make it plain at the top what you're actually targeting to kind of help guide the reader through what their expectations should be when they're looking at your resume. This is a page and a half, right? So I think if you went a step further and talked about your actual accomplishments, more as they relate to the position that you're applying to, you would have more information and it would be a full 2 pages, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I think there's not enough information here for me to really know what you're applying to. I mean, you also could have a skills section. And if it's administrative role, I want to know what systems you have experience with. And there's no mention, of that, any systems, any, skills or competencies that's missing.
Also,
I'm
they
sorry.
jump either. They jump. They're not all right justified.
Oh, you're formatting on your
So,
data.
yeah, that's, and again, that's a formatting thing. You want to be consistent. If you're going to put them all the way over there to the right, I think they probably hit the space bar to get it over there when you can actually slide it as a tab so that everything is consistent and so that they're flush with the right side of the page. Because, yeah, they are on the right side. They're correct. But yeah, other than that, it's the same issues that the other resumes have had. So let's see, senior technology leader. All right. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff here, and you see that this is kind of overwhelming because it's tons of bullets. Again, separate the bullets from what you were actually hired to do and front load those achievements. When I'm looking for somebody who is a technology leader, I am looking for them to have supervised people. I don't see mention of who you supervised or how many. So that would come up. I would question whether or not this person actually supervised. And then 4. Again, front load those achievements because the achievements are kind of hidden within the bullets. And also keep your bullets no longer than 2 lines. A lot of these bullets are 3 lines long, and that's because you've probably got some extra words in there, some filler words. You want to write tight, you want to write concisely, you want to say the most with the least amount of words, and that's going to shorten your document. I probably would pull the skills section to the first page of the resume, because again, you're assuming that we're going to make it down to the bottom. Usually when we go to the bottom of the resume, we're only looking for your education and your skills. If you have a lot of experience, your education goes at the bottom. If you don't have a lot of experience, or if you are transitioning, your education can go at the top of your resume. But I want to see those skills more on the front page of the resume because a lot of times the requirements are looking for, again, we're going to know to go to the bottom of the resume for the education. We're going to look for that probably first. But if I'm looking for your technical stuff, I want that because, that should have higher real estate on your resume. So I would just move that. And then bullet count, how many bullets should be under one job? 5 or 6 bullets for the current job and then fewer bullets as you go back. Now, that's my rule of thumb. That is not Bible. Okay. That does not mean that you're not going to get an interview because you got 4 bullets on one and 3 bullets on the other, and then you got 5 bullets on another. No, I'm just saying to keep the amount that to make sure that you're talking about your most recent roles the most, and you're giving the most information about that. That's why you're going to use fewer bullets as you go back, because you see your senior business analyst work doesn't mean a hill of beans to somebody who's already a senior manager of technology. So you could get rid of those bullets altogether, because if you're in technology, what you did back then is probably obsolete anyway in 2025. So those last 2 positions, I probably would, just minimize those as early career. All right, and then I would move on to the next resume. I'm not sure what my camera's doing. All right, here we go. So Yeah, because I was like, why am I foggy? But anywho, moving on. All right, so a dedicated professional with acceptable service experience. I'm going to assume this is customer service because I see client service, I see patient safety, customer service. So, and then I see multiple fonts. There's probably 3, 4 different fonts on this resume. So be mindful of the font. Use whatever, use a consistent font. It shouldn't really be more than 2 different fonts on the resume. And then those fonts, like you can use a different font for your header than you use for the rest of the body of your document, but you should not have something as inconsistent as this. So let's see. There's no locations on the position. At minimum, you need to have the company where you worked, the position that you held, the dates that you were there, and the location of that company. All right. And the same thing, these bullets look like they were copied and pasted directly from the job description. So make sure that you are personalizing that experience so that it does fit you specifically and, shows the success that you've had in those particular positions. This is somebody who has not worked since 2024. So this would also be someone that I would suggest has a, either a filler position that shows volunteer work or projects that they've worked on, part-time work, whatever it is, or a one-liner explaining the gap. And don't say that you were just looking for a job during that time, because we kind of know that. But what have you done to improve your skills during that time is what we want to know. So take some trainings. Again, go to your community, your local, community associations, chambers of commerce. They, libraries. They do a lot of trainings. Trainings like this. You make sure that you're listing things that are very relevant to what it is that you would be doing.
Also, the bullet points in the first job are not lined up with the rest of the bullet points in the
Yeah.
doc.
Yep. So there's a lot of structural issues, to this resume. The dates, again, they aren't lined up either. But the bigger, issue is just the layout of the formats in general and the glaring difference between those fonts, because it does look, like a copy and paste. And then your bullets, some of them have periods at the end and some of them don't. I always put periods at the end because the bullets, what you say in your resume is a full sentence. And so we put periods at the end of full sentences. So some of them you have periods, some of them you do not. So there's a lot of inconsistency. So I would say this resume was not proofread at all. But just slow down enough to make sure that everything is perfect to the best of your ability. Have somebody proofread your document. Now we can go to the next. All right, this is a talent acquisition partner. Again, the use of the bullets. So the job entries themselves should not be bullets. It's hard to differentiate between, you see how the date goes? It starts with the month and then the other part is on the other end of the page. Just think about how you review resumes as a recruiter. Right. And that was the hardest thing for me is I could see resumes all day and see what I wanted them to look like, but then recreating that for myself, because it's hard to write for yourself. But those little things make it easy for somebody to scan your information because there's no bolding at all. So it's hard to say, like, when are we getting to the next position? Because you've got bullets everywhere. Right. So all of your bullets under the job, then the job entry itself is a bullet. So I don't know where the new job starts and the other job ends if I'm just scanning this resume. So make it easy, easier to read. This is also, I think is this a 3-page resume that you've put on one? Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't a 2-column resume. But yeah, so, just be consistent when it comes to how you lay out the position. Make it easy to digest. That is your job as the writer of your resume, to make sure that you are telling the reader with your formatting where their eyes should go next. And if everything kind of looks the same, my eyes are crossed and I'm kind of going on to the next thing because it's hard to read. But it looks like from, from what you're saying about your experience that, you do have some successes, but I want to see, information about your time to fill if you're applying for a talent acquisition. I want to see where you partner with your business units. I want to see where you, improve the process. Where did you improve the candidate experience? I'm looking for things like that when I'm deciding whether or not somebody is a good recruiter that I want to hire. So if you did, those things, you got to make sure that you're saying them and placing them in a place where anybody can see it, that they're not having to search throughout your document for that information. And other than that, like I said, it's just going to be the same, details from the other tips that I've given. I don't want to be redundant, so we can move to the next resume. Unless there's questions about this one.
The only question we have right now is, how do you stand out if everything is presented so simply, as long as it's structured and set up well?
Because your content should be different. It doesn't, that's just the same thing as you have a black and white sweater, right? Two companies have the same black and white sweater. One may use cashmere, the other has used polyester. You can tell the difference. Yeah, you can tell the difference. I can tell the difference when somebody has copied and pasted their job description into the, for their resume. I can also tell when somebody has thoughtfully outlined their information to show specific accomplishments that a specific impact that they've made. There is a difference. So the look of your resume should be the least of your concerns, because if the ATS is going to extract that information and put it into a plain little profile anyway, it doesn't matter that your profile is pretty. Yeah, I may look at it a little bit longer, but if you're not talking about anything, right, then I'm not going to read your book to the end, right? I don't care. Your trailer could be good enough to get me there, but your movie could still suck, right? So focus on your content and what it is that you're telling me, to let me know that, yeah, you know what you're doing and, you're here to, to make it happen. All right, now I got my camera back. Good deal. Okay, so let's see what Happy's doing here. Director IT Core Application Delivery. In the ATS, that information may become part of your contact information. So I would take the Director of IT Core Application Delivery and put it above where you have the summary. I would put it right there because that's the title of your resume. The title should not be mixed in with your contact information. And then there again, 20 years of experience, unless they are requiring that, they're going to assume that a director has a good amount of experience anyway. It's not necessary for you to call out the 20 years of experience. I would much rather know that, what benefit was it of you to empower those high performing teams to do what? Drive innovation in what? Is it tools? Is it, a certain system? Is it, I don't know, network administration, whatever it is, just be more specific about what that is and take the focus off those years, because they can look at the years that you worked at these places and, and kind of calculate whether or not you have enough experience for the position. So just be mindful of, drawing attention to your years of experience when it's not necessary for you to do that. So then there's a block of text when it comes to the summary. So I would put those as bullets, so you can separate out each one of those thoughts. And, so that way it's easier to read instead of it being, just wall to wall text, because you got a lot of text for the summary. Then here you come with a lot of text for the competencies as well. And I don't think that the core competencies, you've got some achievements woven in there as well. So be careful of how you title things, because those wouldn't be considered competencies to me. Competencies would be more so aligned with what you have as your key skills. So that can be a bit confusing. Decide what needs to be there. Because if your summary statement, you can choose either or. Are you going to use the summary as these bullets that you have listed as core competencies, or find a way to incorporate both so that it makes sense, but it needs to be easy to read and not wall to wall text. As far as the bullets, same thing, separate what you were hired to do from what you accomplished. And let's see, the education, I see it's there. All right, they only went back 10 years, so that's good there. And then the training courses. All right, cool. Just make sure if you're listing the training courses that they are, relevant and help position you better, for the position that you're targeting. Other than that, this is an okay document, but definitely has room for improvement because I'm looking at the resume and not feeling that this is a director because I don't know that you directed people. I don't see anything that mentions how many people you supervise, what business units or, what segments of, the IT sector you were responsible for, or that came under your jurisdiction. So don't assume that just because you have that title that we're going to assume that you supervise people because I have had a manager title before and I did not manage people. I have managed people and did not have a manager title at that time, right? So you have to make sure that you're being clear about what it is that you did because there are heads of IT and there's only one person in IT. There was nobody for you to supervise. So you have to set the tone and make it clear of, the size and the impact that you made, the size of your responsibility, the size of your scope, and, how many people you supervise. If it was a team of 40, that, say that. And then I don't see systems either. Yeah, I do. They're mixed in with your key skills. Only a few of them, like SAS and API and SQL and all of those. I would kind of like to see that separated out from your competencies or key skills and then the systems that you're responsible for or that you have knowledge of. All right, next resume. All right, and we've got a project management engineer. All right, strategic and empathetic. Right, extensive experience leading. Okay, cool. So I like this this summary statement. It does tell who they are. They're a strategic and empathetic project management leader, and they lead those complex initiatives. They also drive those process improvements. They've done upskilling projects. They've had multiple platform certifications. They got experience with Agile. Those are things that I would expect from somebody in project management. They also talk about the human side of their project. So I feel like this person took the time to personalize their information and didn't just go with the old, copy and paste. The old, I'm going to put this in AI and let it generate something for me. So I do feel like this is specific to the person, to a point. I also see good use of white space here. So even though they did explain okay, so they said that they were on contract. So that lets me know that they had a contract. But what I don't see is what happened between May 20, because that's 5 years. That's 5 years that you got to account for. Don't allow somebody to assume what happened to you during that time, because you could have been in jail for 5 years. You could have been sick for 5 years, or or whatever, could have happened. But do something relevant within that time frame, whether it was volunteering, whether it was going to school, because I see that you volunteer for Melville Family Foundation. So that is something that you can say the reason why you left that job. So you were on contract. So after your contract ended, you took some time off to volunteer for the Melville Foundation, the family foundation there. Explain something. I'm not saying that that's your true reason. I would probably work with you more specifically to get, something a bit meatier and more impactful to, to say as your reason. But I definitely would want to know what's been up since May 2020. But there's a good separation of what you were hired to do and what your accomplishments were. But I do want you to beef up those accomplishments because managing the 22-member team that covered 10 areas, that isn't an accomplishment, but the fact that you recalibrated the operations to address and build issues and optimize the execution, that is, that is the accomplishment. So that part needs to go first. Because otherwise, it could be assumed that you're just listing a task there, and I don't care about your task because I want to know what you accomplished. So I think, and providing input on the budget, for that particular, like, why is that important? Go more into detail about where the impact was. So how you decide if you've given enough information in a bullet, ask yourself, so what? Why does somebody care about this? So if they say, okay, well, that's nothing. You didn't do anything. How do you advocate for the fact that, yes, it is, that was a big deal because had I not done this, this wouldn't have happened. So, think about it. What blows up if you don't show up? Okay. So what? What did I do? If I didn't do the thing, what would have kept happening? What problem did I solve by something that I did? And that's how you can change the narrative of a task into an accomplishment. Okay, but otherwise, structurally and how this is laid out, I like it. It's simple, it's easy to read, I can follow it. There are some formatting issues with, with the dates not in in a consistent place. So just watch those minor details. But again, somebody's date pushed over to the side is not going to make me not call them if they're qualified for my role. And otherwise, they've laid out things, but you don't want to take that chance because your competition has it together. There's also difference in font sizes. It looked like you got about a 10.5 within the professional experience, but your qualifications and your summary statement look to be about a 12. So just be consistent with font sizes. All right. Any questions about this one?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay. Good deal. All right. So I know that email, phone, and LinkedIn, that could all be on one line, taking up too much space because this document is it looks kind of crammed. So any opportunity to free up space, especially in the summary statement. So you've got breaking stride on one line by itself. That would tell me that either, you've got some filler words in there, or something, but that's a way that you can get rid of the extra space too. If you've got one or two words that are kind of hanging on the line by themselves, find a way to shorten that sentence. Either you can use your thesaurus or you can, just take out the filler word in there. So is it important for you to say intentional? Because intentional really isn't telling me anything. So you could have removed that word and then now you've got a good 3-liner instead of 4. Just by doing that, that one. So once heard of the llama mid consulting call without breaking stride, what does that mean? I have no idea what that means. That alone would make me skip this resume. And then with the milestones and key accomplishments, I like the bolding there. I like the bolding throughout the resume to draw attention to certain things. But what I see in your professional experience section is the administration manager at UPS is there by itself. And then I'm like, okay, where's the rest of it? It's on page 2. That part should have been on page 2 with it. All right, just hit your enter and push it over to the page. So that way I know what company we're talking about, what time frame. And also remember to put your locations there. Even though you have that your professional experience is remote, the bare minimum of what a system is going to ask you for is the location, the company name, the dates, and the position title. And you can decide whether you use your home location or the company headquarter for your location. But it would depend on what you're applying to and what makes the most sense. No real issue with the bullets, but I would say this is a lot to have under one position because I think all of this information on page 2 goes under the administrative manager, but you've been at your current job and there's like one little tiny bullet there by itself. So yeah, I would figure out what's the most relevant information to have here and sort of leave it at that. But this is a lot of information to have under one single position. And without knowing what is relevant, to what type of job, what the job is asking for, I can't tell you what I would eliminate. But if training and development is not something that is required for the job that you're applying to, then you may save this type of information for your LinkedIn. So you would just say, are they asking for me to have done crisis initiatives? Are they asking for me to have done training and development? If they're not asking for that, then it probably doesn't need to be on the, on the resume forefront. You may be able just to, again, put it on your LinkedIn just to free up some space, because this is a lot and it can be overwhelming, especially because these are not position listings. These are just competencies that you're calling out within the current role. And then the educations and the certifications. Again, I don't know that an operations manager would, if the role is requiring that you have project management experience. But if it is, then that PMP certification, the fact that you have it pending, that should be on the top. That should be in that summary section. Let them know that you're getting your PMP. The PMP can, determine whether, it could be a difference in, $10,000 to $30,000. And so I don't want to get all the way down to the, you've already made me suffer through this big block of text here to read that. And you're expecting me to still make it to the end of your resume to see that PMP. Bring it up to the top. All right, we can do the next one. All right, we've got production planning. All right, so we've got resourceful, cost-minded, and certified. So yeah, so I know right away you've got that certification. All right, proven history of reducing costs and increasing productivity and managing inventory. All right, and then you've got significant accomplishments. Those are bolded. I like it. Be mindful of the font sizes, because I'm seeing some different font sizes here. Also, headings. Make sure that you're putting enough breathing room between the heading, because you got space at the end of the second page. You could have freed up a little bit more space there. Put space between your headers, because again, it's just visually, it's easier to read that way. We've got, it looks like you may have had two roles at the same time, because you're a text preparer while you were doing work. So that's good. There's some overlap there, so that works. Okay, so it looks like the additional relevant experience. So this is an example of what you can do when you've got that older experience that is relevant and you don't want to draw attention to your dates. You can just put the amount of time. So I do like the use of that, because I'm sure that that's why you did it. But, again, it's that relevant experience, but it could have been something from, 15, 20 years ago, right? And you don't want them to, to focus on that. You want it to actually be, focus on what you did there. So I do like the use of that. And again, locations. You got to have the locations on where your jobs were. What else? I saw something. Okay, so in the education, if you're going to call out that you were cum laude, make sure that you're spelling it correctly. So cum laude is always lowercase, and it's C-U-M and then L-A-U-D-E. And with this amount of experience, I don't know that the cum laude or the dean's list even matters at this, it matters at this point. But if you're going to put it, just make sure that it's listed correctly. And then let's see. Okay, so I'm not sure with the Middlesex County College whether or not it's necessary for you to have your associate's information on there when you have your business administration, unless your business administration degree wasn't in accounting or wasn't in something that's relevant to product planning. Then I can see it there. But if you took some material management courses within that business administration, just leave that and put the courses, put that you had that coursework there. But I don't know it's necessary to list out all of your information here, because that could free up some more space for your accomplishments. All right, technical skills would be fine. The additional technical skills are kind of off center. So I don't know if it's centered or if it, there's something funky going on with that. So yeah, make sure that we clean that up so that your format is crisp and clear and easy to read throughout. But those are sort of the glaring things here. And there is a use of different bullets. So there's round bullets, and then there's dashes. So this would be an example of, you don't need more than two kinds of bullets or two kinds of fonts. Just make sure that it doesn't make the document look busy. And, and this would be okay, but we also have a lot of bullets elsewhere. So you would have to decide whether or not the bullets are, going to position the information better. But that could be something that, somebody could be a stickler for that. Not a big issue, just calling it out. Okay, we can go to the next one.
Jeff says due to time, we need to make this our last one.
Okay.
So I'm going to stop my share and we can open it up, I guess, for a couple of questions, maybe, Jeff? Do we have time for more questions?
Yep. Let me get the mic out here.
A couple things. First of all, does it matter for the years formatting if you put just the year, or does a month need to always be attached to the year? I've seen them both ways. I didn't know if there was a preference on that.
Yeah. So the short answer is no, it doesn't matter, but you have to be aware of an issue that it could cause. So when you list the month and the year, I'm doing the math to calculate how many years of experience you have, because I want to, that depends on the money that you make as well, how many years of experience you have. When you put just the years, when you have shorter tenure, it could be the difference of working somewhere 1 month or 2 years. There can be a difference in that. So example, if I worked somewhere from December of 2019 until January of 2020, and I put 2019 to 2020, it is true, but that is 1 month. But if I worked January of 2019 until December of 2020, I worked there 2 years.
Right. One other question too, so some of these resumes had achievements broken out as a separate section, and others just had the achievements listed under. Are they both good? Is it generally better to just have them listed according to their specific role, or what are your thoughts on that?
So they're both correct, but you have to do it correctly. So when I put a section of key accomplishments at the top of the resume, it is typically because I have someone, I'm trying to show you right away the most important accomplishments that this person has. But I'm also listing that information in a different way in the job that it is assigned to, because the hiring manager is going to know where I did that, like where did that happen, right? So also, I may create that section for someone who has older relevant experience, but I don't want them to list the dates on that old information, because that can open them up for ageism. So I can bring that information to the top of the resume so they can see that they do have that relevant experience, but I don't really want you to focus on when I got it done. I just want you to know that I have it. So there should be a strategy behind why you do that. So you don't have to do it, at all. You can just put your accomplishments where they go with the assigned position. But there's some strategy things that you have to do depending on the person's situation.
Okay. And then also length of tenure at places, like for instance, if you just had 2 months or 4 months or something like that at a place, and you have these other more substantive tenures at places, should those most of the time be left out, or is there a rule about that? Or I mean, should every experience be put in, or is there, what's the thought on that?
Okay, so relevancy first.
Okay.
Right? If it is relevant, and if by removing that information, you lose relevant experience, that now it makes it seem like you're not really qualified for the role, it would benefit you to list those roles and then put a little explanation about why that was a short tenure. So was it a contract? Was a position eliminated, right? But if you have otherwise some substantive experience, right? You've got a good track record or whatever, and you just had a short little stint, this position, you were door dashing. You may leave that because since then you've had some good stable career. So it's going to depend on those different things. Is it relevant? If I remove this information, does it make me unqualified? Or does it make me look, does it put a negative spin on my content by
Okay.
leaving it?
Thanks.
So yes or no, you can, it just depends on the situation.
Hold on, we got another question here.
Hi, this is Noel Span.
Right.
Assuming that the two pieces of paper we've been talking about for the last 2 hours is simply your ticket to get face-to-face, right? And I have a tendency to want to tell people about myself, and my resume is 3 pages. I'm specifically going to ask, at the very bottom of mine, I have volunteer and interests. They could or could not be relevant to what I'm applying to. Would you just leave those off, even though it's part of my story, volunteer and interests?
Yeah, so you have to decide, is this information somehow giving them some added benefit, that could be functional for the position that I'm applying to. If it is not, and it's just that, you may have done, say Meals on Wheels or, or something like that, that it was just something that for you to do because that's part of your heart, put that on your LinkedIn. Because we're going to go to LinkedIn anyway, to look at it. So any extra information that extends your resume beyond, again, you can put the one-liner information. For more information about my interests, hobbies, volunteer associations, or, or whatever, visit my LinkedIn. And hyperlink it to your, to your LinkedIn. You don't have to fill that space at all. But we're going to look at that comprehensively. If we see the resume, we're probably going to go and find you on LinkedIn anyway. Because we're looking to see that, like, can I find out something about him personally or something else that may give him an edge, and then I've got this, oh, okay, this is some cool stuff that I've learned about you, but it's not as relevant for it to take up real estate on your resume.
Yeah, I also like to say your resume is just a fishing hook. It's just an opportunity. You're sending it out just so you can get a phone call, because that's where you start to really sell yourself.
Right.
All right, Ashley, thank you very much for your time. I think great information. How many people are going to be rewriting their resumes when they get home this weekend? All the hands that went up in the room. So, Ashley, thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's see here.
I'm gonna say we're always adjusting our resumes.
Yep. And just remember, it's going to really depend on what you're doing. It doesn't have to be something that you're reworking and reworking and reworking. But if it's working for you, keep your resume like it is. If it's not working, then you've got some work to do.
All right. Next Friday, Dee Robinson will be with us to talk about negotiating the offer. So join us next Friday for that. This video will go up on the Career USA YouTube channel. You'll be able to watch it. It'll be up there tomorrow afternoon. When you go to the YouTube channel, click on playlist, and then pick the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group speakers. And at the very bottom where you see view full playlist, click on that, and up will come a list of all the different speakers and chronologically we've had over the last 4 or 5 years. Just remember that if you want to see the speaker, you need to go in about 30 minutes into the video where the speaker will actually start. Next Tuesday for LinkedIn Tuesdays, how to tell your key contacts and prospects who you are, what you do, and how you can help. Terry Sullivan will be with us. It will only be on Zoom. There'll be no recording made for the public. He doesn't allow his presentation to be recorded, but you can watch it live next Tuesday. The practice interview team will be meeting in person next Friday. It's the 5th Wednesday of the month. So they'll be here in this room next Wednesday. For those people who can't come to the interview practice because you live out of town or it's too far to travel, we recommend that you watch session 11 of our 13-part interview workshop, How to Shorten Your Job Search Through Informational Interviewing. So you can watch that. If you want the link or you don't have the link, just go to the careerusa.org website under career training on the left-hand side. Just look for Interview Wednesday and find the right date, and the link will be there when you click it to expand the information. Next Friday, Dee Robinson will be with us once again to talk about negotiating the offer. Coming up on November 7th, it being the first Friday of the month, we'll do open forum. And then on the 14th, Paula Asanoff will be with us to talk about resumes. what to do with all those project details. So it's a new, she's putting in a new presentation just for us. All right, today's for lunch. We're gonna go to Mama's Pizza. How many people think they're gonna join us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, whoever gets there first, try to put a table together for at least 8 people, and 2 of you all will show up who didn't put your hands up. That's okay. We'll let you sit with us anyway. All right, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you.